And we are back with part 2 of this week's reading of the Messianic Jewish Family Bible Tree of Life Version, TLV. And this is the Bible study for Waymaker, Messianic Jewish and Christian Center, USA. We are reading the entire book of Ecclesiastes this week, and we are going to continue now with chapter 5. Do not be quick with your mouth, nor hasty in your heart to utter a word in God's presence. For God is in heaven, and you are on earth. Therefore let your words be few. As a dream comes with excessive burdens, so a fool's voice with too many words. When you swear a vow to God, don't delay in fulfilling it, for he takes no delight in fools. Pay what you vow. So this is really important to weigh your words, not only weigh your words, but if you make a promise, a vow, a covenant, then you need to fulfill that vow, that promise, that covenant. Otherwise, it is viewed as coming from a fool, because you shouldn't be promising things that you don't intend to keep. In other words, it is better for you not to vow than to vow and not pay. Don't let your mouth lead your flesh to sin, and don't say before the messenger it was a mistake. Why should God be angry at your voice and destroy the work of your hands? Many dreams and many words are meaningless, therefore fear God. Bureaucratic oppression. If you see the oppression of the poor or perversion of justice and righteousness in the province, do not be shocked at the matter, for one authority watches over another authority, and higher ones are over them. Though the profit of the land is taken by all, a king is served by the fields. Futility of wealth. A lover of money never has enough money, and a lover of wealth is never satisfied with his income. This too is futile. And we see that so much today of the greed of people, because it's never enough. And they are greedy for money, power, control, and you see that very, very much in like the elite globalists. I'm sorry, I have to say that, but it's true. And when you look at the lifestyle, and I'm not, if you earn that lifestyle, that's great. But when you want more and you want it um, at the expense of other people, then that becomes not so good. Um, when you take advantage of the poor, when you take advantage of the working class, that's not earning it yourself. So when goods increase, so do those who consume them. So what advantage are they to the owner except he sees it with his eyes? The sleep of the laborer is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the excess of the rich permits him no sleep. They're never satisfied, in other words. There is a grievous wrong that I have seen under the sun. Wealth hoarded by its owner to his own hurt, or wealth lost in a bad investment. When he fathers a son, there is nothing in his hand. So often we see a lot of the rich not happy, and unfortunately they never seem to get fulfilled. Some of them actually take their own lives, and so what did all that get them? The greed, but they never fulfilled. They were lacking, definitely lacking something in their life. They were lacking the Lord for one thing, because if you have the Lord in your life, you're richer than what you ever need. What earthly riches there are mean nothing if you don't have the Lord. That's basically what I want to say about that. And when you die, you take nothing with you. So I think it's more important to, as Yeshua said, focus on your treasures in heaven, because they will be waiting for you. So what you do on this earth, and that's not talking money and wealth, it's talking about what you do on this earth will follow you in the next life, which is eternity. And that's really important. As he came from his mother's womb naked, he will return as he came. He takes nothing from his labor that he can carry in his hand. This too is a grievous wrong. Just as he came, so he will go. For what does he gain from his toiling for the wind? So all his days he eats in darkness, and he has much grief, sickness, and humiliation. Behold, this is what I myself have seen. This is what Solomon is thinking about in his old age. It is beneficial and good for one to eat and drink and to enjoy all his toil that he labors under the sun during the few days of his life that God has given him. For this is his reward. Additionally, everyone to whom God has given riches and wealth and empowers him to eat from it, to receive his share, and to rejoice in his labor, this is a gift of God, for he will not often consider the days of his life, since God keeps him occupied with the joy of his heart. And the joy of the heart should be to always be praising God, actually. Chapter 6 is futility of living without God, which I just kind of hedged on. There is a misery that I have seen under the sun, and it is heavy upon humanity. God gives a man riches, wealth, and honor so that he lacks nothing that his heart desires, yet God does not enable him to eat from it. Instead, a foreigner will eat it. This is fruitless and agonizing illness. Even if a man should father 100 children and live many years, however many the days of his years may be, yet his soul is never satisfied with his prosperity, and he does not have a proper burial. Then I say that is better for the stillborn than him. Even though it comes in futility and departs into darkness, though its name is shrouded in darkness, though it has never seen or experienced the sun, it has more rest than the other. Even if the other men were to live 1,000 years twice and never enjoy good things, do not all go to the same place? Hmm. All a man's labor is for his mouth, yet his appetite is not satisfied. So what advantage has the wise over the fool? What does the pauper gain by knowing how to walk before the living? Better is what the eyes see than the pursuit of the soul's desires. This too is fleeting and striving after wind. Whatever exists has already been named, and it has been made known what humanity is. But man cannot contend with the one who is mightier than he. When there are many words, futility increases. How does that benefit anyone? For who knows what is good for one during his life, during the few days of his fleeting life that pass like a shadow? For who can tell a person what happens after him under the sun? And chapter 7, lessons from mourning. Better is a good reputation than precious oil, and the day of death than the day of birth. Better to go to a house of mourning than to go to a house of feasting, since that is the end of all mankind, and the living should take it to heart. Grief is better than laughter, for though the face is sad, the heart may be glad. The heart of the wise is in a house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in a house of pleasure. It's an interesting concept. Wisdom better than folly, better to hear a rebuke from the wise than to listen to the song of fools. For like the crackling of thorns under a pot, so it is the laughter of the fool. This too is a vapor, for extortion drives a wise man crazy, and a bribe corrupts the heart. Better the end of a matter than its beginning, better a patient spirit than a proud one. Do not be quickly provoked in your spirit, for anger settles in the bosom of fools. Do not say, why were the old days better than these? For it is not from wisdom that you ask about this. Wisdom is as good as an inheritance, and even better for those who see the sun. For wisdom is a shelter, as money is a shelter. But the advantage of knowledge is this: wisdom preserves the life of the one who possesses it. Consider the work of God. For who can straighten what he has bent? In a time of prosperity, prosper. But in a time of adversity, consider God has made one as well as the other. Therefore, man cannot discover anything about his future. And the last segment of chapter 7 is avoid extremes. During my fleeting days, I have seen both of these things. Sometimes a righteous one perishes in his righteousness, and sometimes a wicked one lives long in his wickedness. Do not be overly righteous, nor overly wise. Why confound yourself? Do not be overly wicked, and do not be a fool. Why die before your time? It is good to grasp the one and not withdraw your hand from the other, for the one who fears God will escape both extremes. Wisdom makes a wise man stronger than 10 rulers in a city. Surely there is not a righteous person on earth who does what is good and doesn't sin. Also, do not pay attention to every word people say, otherwise you might hear your servant mocking you, for your heart knows that many times you too have mocked others. All this I have tested with wisdom, and I said, I determined to be wise, but it was far from me. Whatever it may be, it is far off and very profound. Who can fathom it? So I turned my heart to understand, to search, and seek out wisdom and explanation of things, and to know the stupidity of wickedness and madness of folly. I find more bitter than death the woman who is a snare, whose heart is a trap, and whose hands are chains. He who pleases God will escape her, but a sinner will be captured by her. Look, said Kohelet, I discovered this while adding one thing to another to find the scheme of things, which my soul is seeking but not finding. I found one upright man among 1,000, but one upright woman among them all I have not found. Only this have I discovered. God made mankind upright, but they weren't seeing after many schemes. Well, if you remember, Solomon had many women, and a lot of them were pagan, which actually led him to start worshiping little g gods and not just, you know, the Almighty God, which he was supposed to. They actually caused him to stumble because they were worshiping other gods, small letter G. In Romans 3, chapter 3, verse 23, kind of reflects also something that and I usually use this for the altar call, something reflected in what we just read in chapter 7. Um, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Yeah, and all have sinned. That means everyone. But the gift of grace is through Yeshua. We'll get into that, like I said, with the altar call. Chapter 8, Wisdom's Light and Limits. Who is like the wise person? Who knows the meaning of a matter? A person's wisdom makes his face shine, transforming the harshness of his face. I say, obey the king's command, and especially in regard to the oath of God. Do not be hasty to rush out of his presence. Do not stand up for an evil cause, because he will do whatever he desires. Since the word of a king has authority, who can say to him, what are you doing? Whoever obeys his command will not experience harm, and a wise person's heart discerns the proper time and procedure. For there is a proper time and procedure for every matter, though a person's trouble is heavy upon him. Since no one knows what will be, who can tell when it will happen? No one has authority over the wind to restrain it, nor authority over the day of death. As no one is discharged during a battle, so wickedness cannot rescue its master. Only God is in complete control of everything. We need to remember that. He is the creator. He is the master of the universe. He is control of all things. Now, man might want to you know, try to control things, but ultimately it is God who is in control. I have seen all this while applying my mind to everything done under the sun. Sometimes one person dominates another person to his own harm. Then I saw the wicked buried. They used to come and go from the holy place, but will soon be forgotten in the very city where they did this. This too is meaningless. When the sentence against a crime is not swiftly carried out, the human heart is encouraged to do evil. Even though a sinner might commit 100 crimes and prolong his days, yet I know that it will be well for those who fear God, for those who revere him. But it will not go well with the wicked, and he will not lengthen his days like a shadow because he does not fear God. There is another enigma that occurs upon the earth. There are righteous people who are requited according to the work of the wicked, and there are wicked people who are requited according to the work of the righteous. I said, this also is meaningless. So I recommend enjoyment because there is nothing better for humanity under the sun except to eat, drink, and enjoy it. So this joy will accompany him in his labor all the days of his life that God gives him under the sun. When I applied my heart to know wisdom and to observe the activity that is done under the earth upon the earth, his eyes not seeing sleep neither day or night, and I saw all the work of God. No one can comprehend the work that is done under the sun, despite all human efforts to seek it out. No one comprehends it. Even if a wise person claims to know, he cannot really comprehend. And this is coming from Solomon, who is said to be the wisest man who ever lived. So he was given wisdom through God because he asked, this is one thing that Solomon asked for when he came into kingship. He was so fearful that he wasn't going to be able to be equipped to lead the people after his father, David. And he asked God to equip him to know the heart of the people, with wisdom. He didn't ask for riches, but God did give him riches as well as wisdom. Chapter 9, One Destiny for All. For all this I laid on my heart to ascertain all this, that the righteous and the wise, as well as their works, are in the hand of God. Whether love or hatred, no one knows. Everything awaits them. Everyone shares the same destiny, for the righteous and the wicked, for the good, the ritually clean and the defiled, for one who sacrifices and one who does not sacrifice as the good person, so the sinner as the one who swears like the one who fears an oath. This is a misery in everything done under the sun, that the same destiny awaits everyone. Well, as we know, that's not so, um, since Yeshua has changed that. Moreover, the hearts of all humans are full of evil, and folly is in their hearts during their lives. After that, they die. Everyone who is among the living has hope. Even a living dog is better off than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward. Even the memory of them is forgotten, for their love, their hatred, and their zeal have already perished. Never again will they have a share in anything that is done under the sun. Go, eat your bread with gladness and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already accepted your deeds. Let your clothes always be white, and do not spare oil on your head. Live joyously with the wife whom you love all the days of your fleeting life that he has given you under the sun during all your fleeting days. For this is your portion in life, and in your toil that you labor under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do with all your strength, for there is no work, or planning, or knowledge, or wisdom in Sheol, where you are going. I further observed under the sun the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the mighty, nor does bread come to the wise, or wealth to the discerning, or favor to the skillful, for time and chance befall them all. Moreover, no man knows his time, like fish caught in a fatal net, or birds caught in a snare. So people are trapped in a time of calamity that falls upon them suddenly. I also observed this as wisdom under the sun, and it greatly impressed me. There was a little city with a few people in it, and a mighty king came against it, surrounded it, and built great siege works against it. Now a poor wise man was found in it, and he delivered the city by his shrewdness. Nobody remembered that poor man. So I said, wisdom is better than strength, but the poor man's wisdom is despised and his words are not heeded. The words of the wise, heard in quiet, are better than a ruler's shout among fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. Chapter 10 is Wisdom and Folly. Dead flies make a perfumer's oil stink, so a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. The heart of the wise is to his right, and the heart of a fool is to his left. Even as the fool walks along the way, his heart lacks sense and tells everyone what a fool he is. I kind of like to compare that to the separation of the sheep and goat and the wheat and the tare. If a ruler's spirit rises up against you, do not leave your post, for composure allays great offenses. There is a wrong I have seen under the sun, like an error proceeding from a ruler. Fools are placed in many high positions, while the rich sit in low ones. I have seen slaves on horses and princes walking on the ground like slaves. Whoever digs a pit may fall into it, and whoever breaks through a fence may be bitten by a snake. Whoever quarries stones may be hurt by them, and whoever splits logs may be endangered by them. If the iron axe is blunt and one doesn't sharpen the edge, then he must exert more force. So wisdom has the advantage of giving success. If the snake bites before it is charmed, there is no profit for the charmer. Words from the mouth of the wise are gracious, but the lips of a fool destroy him. The words from his mouth begin as folly, and end as grievous madness, and the fool multiplies words. No one knows what will happen, and who can tell him what will happen after him? The mischief of fools wearies them, for he doesn't know how to go to town. Oi to you, O land, when your king is a youth! And your princes feast in the morning. Happy are you, O land, when your king is a son of nobles, and your princes eat at the proper time in self-control and not in drunkenness. By laziness the rafters sag, and by idle hands the house leaks. A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes life glad, but money is the answer for everything. Do not ridicule the king even in your thoughts, nor curse the rich in your bedroom. For a bird of the air may carry your voice, and a winged creature may report your words. And chapter 11 is Wisdom of the Long View. Cast your bread upon the waters, for after many days you will find it. Give portions to 7 or even to 8, for you do not know what disaster may happen upon the earth. If the clouds are full, they empty out rain upon the earth. Whether a tree falls to south or north, the tree lies wherever it falls. Whoever keeps watching the wind will not sow, and whoever gazes at the clouds will not reap. Just as you do not know how the spirit passes into the bones in the womb of a pregnant woman, so you do not know the work of God who makes all things. In the morning sow your seed, and in the evening do not let your hand be idle, for you do not know if this or that will succeed, or if both will prosper together. Light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. For if a man lives many years, let him rejoice in them all. But let him remember the days of darkness, for there will be many. Everything to come is obscure. Rejoice, young man, in your childhood, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes, but know that for all these things God will bring you to judgment. So banish anxiety from your heart and cast off distress from your body, for youth and prime of life are fleeting. And I'm going to pause it now and come back with the final chapter of Ecclesiastes, and we're going to recap and then go into the altar call, and we'll be bringing this to a close for this week.